The report presents very substantial evidence that the president is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors, and we have to present, or let Mueller present those facts to the American people, and then see where we go from there, because the administration must be held accountable, and no president can be above the law.
That, of course, New York Democrat Jerry Nadler. He's head of the House Judiciary Committee, so he will be one of the key lawmakers questioning Robert Mueller this Wednesday. Now, even though President Trump is obsessed with Mueller, he can't stop talking about him and blasting him on Twitter, the president says he will not be watching the hearings. He also had this to say today.
I'm not going to be watching Mueller because you can't take all those bites out of the apple. We had no collusion, no obstruction. We had no nothing. We had a total no collusion finding. The Democrats were devastated by it. They went crazy. They've gone off the deep end. And what they're doing is just hearing after hearing after hearing. It's nonsense, okay? They tried an impeachment vote, and they got slaughtered last week. They got absolutely slaughtered. It was the most ridiculous. I didn't even know they were going to do it.
For a guy who's not too interested, he seems to be, well, interested. Of course, the Mueller report never said any of the things the president just alluded to, not even close. My next guest, he served on the defense team for President Bill Clinton during his impeachment battle. Guy Smith joins us now. First off, your expectations. This is not Bob Mueller's first rodeo. He's done this before. As I think you described him, he's Joe Friday, you know, just the facts man by the book. That said, if you'd give free advice, particularly to the Democrats doing the questioning, would you just have them ask Mueller to read passages from the two reports? Or my fear is if they try and do all the grandstanding and everything else, it just becomes white noise.
There will be way too much white noise. That's the way congressional hearings these days are, either party. But what is unique here is that most of the American people have never read this enormous document, 448 pages.
I think most of Congress hasn't read it.
That's exactly right. Many of them have even admitted they haven't read it. So here's what's going to happen. As Mueller is asked to read specific passages that specifically detail either connections with the Russians, not a criminal conspiracy. The president just said there wasn't any collusion. Mueller wasn't looking for collusion. Right. He was looking for criminal conspiracy. So they didn't find any. But what he did find, and it is specifically outlined in this report, are contacts with a hostile foreign power knowing they're trying to help your campaign. Now that maybe isn't criminal, but it is an American.
Right.
And then the other part are these specific examples of obstruction of justice. And as Mueller reads them in his voice on live national television, Americans who have only been misled by the Attorney General and by the President and by many sycophants on Fox News. Nobody that watches you watches Fox News.
Thank you so much, Guy, yes.
But what's going to happen is Americans are going to say, oh my God, I didn't know it said that. I don't want my president doing stuff like that.
So I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I know people would love to hear Mueller's response to. And tell me if you think he'll even answer it, or, I mean, if Mueller doesn't want to answer a question, he's not going to answer the question. But first start off with, why didn't Mueller ever subpoena the president? I assume he's going to be asked that question. Do you think he gives us an answer?
I think he will give you an answer that he didn't want to delay things. That's sort of what's been alluded to. It's a little bit been kind of leaked. But you're right, Mueller, he's now a private citizen, so he can tell them to pound sand if he wants to. Mm-hmm. But this is his 61st congressional testimony. He's not a freshman at doing this. But he's also an American citizen and was the chief law enforcement officer for a very long time. So he respects the law, he plays it by the book, and he will answer the members of Congress, both parties. He will answer them truthfully.
Well, I'll get to the Republicans in a second, Guy, but there has been this representation that if Donald Trump was Donald Trump, Joe Q. citizen, not the President of the United States, given the Department of Justice standard on how to treat the executive branch, he would have been treated much differently, and he might have even been charged with obstruction of justice. I assume some version of that question is going to get to Mueller. Does he finally answer, if he was a regular guy, what would have happened to him, or do you think he doesn't answer?
I think he will try to not answer a couple times, and then he'll probably have to answer. And the answer is, anybody that can read a law book there are 10 specific instances of obstruction of justice and witness tampering. 2 of his guys are already in jail on this. He'd already be in Sing Sing if he was a private citizen. And the danger, and this is one of the reasons that Trump is so terrified of all this, is all this stuff still applies when he's not president.
Oh, and I've been saying the timeline of the election, beyond all the obvious reasons, what the Southern District has going on right now, and the exposure he could be looking at as early as 2020, theoretically, or 2021, is real. Okay. Clearly, Guy, there has been daylight between the Attorney General, Mr. Barr, and Robert Mueller. Mueller has wrote a public document, in fact, saying, no, we do not see this eye to eye. How much will he lay clear where he came down and his understandings of not only his findings, but where he thought the Attorney General was wrong and his recalibration, unsolicited, of what Mueller actually said? Will he use the opportunity Wednesday, you think, to clear it up?
Yes, I think he will. I think he will it'll be a bit of a kabuki dance. It will be in very diplomatic language. He will not call the Attorney General some name, but he will very specifically state the differences between why he has a point of view and that the Attorney General took a different point of view, which of course a lot of people think was a complete whitewash. Mueller won't say it like that, but that will be the meaning.
Among the things that Mr. Barr has said, and it's been grasped on by the likes of Devin Nunes and other House Republicans, is the investigators. They bent the rules. They had a bogus narrative, to quote Mr. Barr, in going after Trump. Now, I love for anyone to think of Bob Mueller as somehow this bleeding heart liberal here who's been, out to protect Democrats from jump. I think you could attest differently to that. But my point being, I would assume this might be one area where Mueller's not going to let his team, let alone the Bureau, be smeared by, frankly, lightweights who'll go after it. Or am I wrong here?
You're 100% right. Mueller will come down very hard on that, very hard, and it will be very clear to anybody listening that speaks English that was not the case. Now, you think about Devin Nunes, and he was among those that tortured Hillary Clinton with Benghazi. One of the reasons that Trump and his team are so terrified of all of this is he's facing 25 Benghazis. Just the Mueller report is just the Mueller report. There are all kinds of these other investigations, the Southern District you mentioned. There are still 12 referrals referenced in the Mueller document that nobody knows what they are, the referrals to other federal district investigators. So is that any of the children? Is it more of Trump's people? Is it something else Trump did? I can guarantee you none of it's good. But here's what's really got him terrified. Trump, with his racist stuff last week, and this week continues, is a distraction. It's distortion. It's done on purpose. It's sucked all the oxygen out of the Mueller report coverage. The pre-coverage has been all about the 4 congresswomen and not about Mueller. So what's going to happen is that the people who are going to be surprised by what they hear from Mueller, the fringes, the edges of Trump's base are being whittled away. The racist stuff, the red hat people behind him, doesn't matter what he does. They're the Fifth Avenue gun crowd, not going to change. But think about this, and if you look closely at the polls, all the polls, maybe not Rasmussen, but all the other polls, white women in suburbs, independents kind of everywhere, independents that voted for Trump, they're drifting away. If you look at the tabs in the polls, that means you can't sustain a re-election without that base expanding, and it's contracting. And this is why they're so scared. And he's doing nothing to expand his base. It's crazy. He's got an economy that's okay. He's not talking about it.
So, Guy, final question for me. It always drives me nuts when I see these 5-minute windows used for, the self-aggrandizement here or going completely duplicating the same question that was either asked before, having no thread to it. Will there be coordination?
You
Will
mean
Jerry
by the
Nadler,
congressman?
yeah, will Nadler get everybody in a room and say, okay, this is your avenue you're going to follow, this is yours? Or do these guys go off in tangents and at the end of it, maybe there's a few sound bites that somebody coming home from work will actually hear?
The answer is yes and yes. They have prepared. But the format is not the way the Watergate hearings or the Iran-Gate hearings went.
Yep.
And even some of the Clinton hearings. In those cases, they assigned a lawyer, a committee lawyer, to ask the questions like somebody in a trial where they develop the questions and develop a narrative. That ain't going to happen. But having said that, both the Republicans and the Democrats, it's been reported, have been doing some homework and are going to try. They're going to try to follow a narrative. So, but the problem is, it's 5 minutes to the Democrats.
Yep.
Everybody's got to make a statement to get on TV, you know, and have their 15 minutes. That's going to get in the way of both parties. It's going to get in the way of the Democrats prosecuting their case, and it's going to get in the way of the Republicans defending their case.
Drives me nuts when they do that, but it will be, no matter what, compelling theater on Wednesday. I know, blame guys like me. Guy, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. You too. All right, when we come back, everybody, our guest just mentioned it, the president refusing to back down from those racist tweets and comments about the 4 Democratic congresswomen, all women of color. We're going to take a look at the politics behind this and also Donald Trump's history when it comes to racially charged rhetoric. It goes, I'll give you a hint, way, way back.